All right, we are back again for another episode of the SFL show where we like to talk sports family life. Darius Barnes here. I'm sure you all know who I am, know by this time. No, especially since it's just my family that probably watches this. So let's see, what are we gonna talk about this week? We had more NFL games, more college games, as we are getting ready to get to the middle or that midpoint of both seasons, and things are starting to shape up, round out. Um, Not much of a surprise in the NFL week. Um, the college week was a little interesting with some of the games that went on. Some really good games. It was actually a good week of college football. So we'll see if we can touch on some of those games, and then of course we'll see if we can end things talking about some parenting stuff. I had a situation come up with my boys, and just some things that I want to talk about from a parenting perspective that I would love to get some comments and some feedback on in regards to how to handle it. So, and no, we'll probably call it a show after that. So let's go ahead and let's talk about what happened on Saturday. I think the big game, the head game was the Oregon and Ohio State game, which was a fun game. I mean, that was a very fun game. Of course, Oregon was able to pull it out with Ohio State driving the ball, no timeouts, no between somewhere 4 to 7 seconds. They were trying to get in field goal position. I think the score was 28-29. Oregon was up by 1 point. And it was not one of the goofiest plays that I've seen, but it was a a play that you could kind of chuckle at. I would say you can kind of chuckle at it where Will Howard, who's quarterback for Ohio State, of course, NIL transfer from Kansas State. He has the ball and he needs to gain a couple more yards to get them in field goal position. They're right around the 30, 40 yard line, or going no towards their end zone. And he needs to pick up about 5, 6 yards. And there's about 4 or 5 seconds left, and he gets it. He looks at his first read. He know he has to get the first down, or he has to throw it out of bounds. That first read is taken, so he tries to scramble for a couple of yards just to get himself in position. And as he's sliding, the clock is hitting zero, and game. Oregon wins. Of course, they jump up to that number 2 slot, which is what Ohio State was. Great game. A lot of big plays. To me, both teams missed opportunities. I think the right team won. I do think Ohio State is probably the most talented team, or the more talented team when you just look at talent. But I think that Oregon was probably the more prepared team, if that makes any sense. I thought um, Lanning did a better job preparing his team and putting them in a position to win, more than your boy Ryan Day. Now, let's talk about Ryan Day just for a second here. And I'm not doing this because I'm a Michigan guy, because Lord knows we can't talk about Michigan right now. Of course, they had a bye week. They got Illinois coming up. It wouldn't surprise me if they lose that game, because having a quarterback matters, and I don't think we have one. So we're not going to bring that up. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but we'll see. But Ryan Day has been known to have a super talented team over the last, well, since he's been the coach of Ohio State. I think is no secret when you look at the players that they're pushing in the draft, that those teams are just loaded with talent. And I saw some numbers that how they're always just flashing numbers. And the one that stuck out to me, and I think he's like 1-5 or 1-6 against top 5 or top 10 teams. So he's winning a lot of games, but he's not beating those teams that his team is supposedly on the same level as. And I'm not saying that your record needs to be, you know, 5-2 or anything like that, because it's hard to win games in college. We're seeing that this year where it is hard to win games in college right now with all the talent that's being spread around. We've been talking about that as a family about NIL and how the talent is spread and how teams are doing and things like that. But it is hard to win games, and I think that if he can't win those big games, Ohio State is going to have to make a decision on what to do. Because if he can't beat top five, top 10 teams, those are the teams that you kind of play in the playoffs. Those are the teams that you play in the national championship. And if you can't beat those teams, then that means no national championships. And I think Ohio State is doing the things that they're doing because they want to go and win a national championship. I was messing with my auntie, who was actually a Ohio State fan when we were at the family reunion in Mississippi, and I was telling her that it's not fair that Ohio State gets the top recruiting class, and then they're also one of the top teams that are in NIL when it comes to spending. And I'm like, y'all can't have both, So if that is happening, if that is going on, yes, they want to win national championships, and if they don't start to do that real soon, and if they keep losing to the Michigans, which I don't think they'll have a problem with this year, the Oregons, the Georgias, teams like that, they're gonna have to really sit back and see if this is the coach that they want to press forward with. Now, I'm not saying Ryan Day is not a good coach. Don't know much about them. Yes, they're big rivals. I don't watch enough of their games outside of Michigan to really make that judgment. But I know they lose a lot of those games where they're going up against those top teams, and that is actually something that they're really going to have to take a look at and see what the remedy is for it. So great game there. I think the second best game that happened was the Alabama South Carolina game, which I think Alabama should have lost. In my opinion, I thought South Carolina outplayed them. I thought that they made the necessary plays to put them in a position to win. But when it was all said and done, they just kind of dropped the ball. I mean, and I mean that literally. Dropped the ball. They got the turnovers when they needed to get them. They got the onside kick when they needed to get it. But they weren't able to prevail. Which brings us to Alabama. I was having this conversation with my younger brother, who I still am trying to get on here, so we can have these conversations together. And we were talking about how Alabama, to me, no, and I just said it this way, to me, it's the second best team in the SEC. I think they are better than Tennessee. I think they beat Georgia. I think they're gonna always beat Ole Miss. And I base that on them that first half against Georgia. I think that first half against Georgia is probably Alabama at their best. And if they're playing that way, I don't think it's going to be many teams that are going to be able to beat them. Now, I do think Texas is the best team in the SEC. They got Georgia coming up. We'll see how that game goes. But I think that Alabama at their best looks pretty good when Jalen Milroe is playing the way he's playing. When of course Ryan Williams is doing the things he's doing. Um, the defense is playing the way they were playing. I think they'd be a pretty tough team to beat. So you had that game, and then of course the second half was a completely different game than the first half, against Georgia. And you saw the next week they lost to Vanderbilt, and then we saw this week they had kind of another subpar effort against South Carolina in the game that they probably should have lost as well. And then of course they have Tennessee coming up next, and we'll see how that goes. But I was saying, no, my argument for what was going on is you kind of see who Nick Saban was and why he is one of the greatest coaches to ever coach college. I think that Vanderbilt loss was, in my opinion, just a huge. To me, it was just a depiction of Alabama just taking a deep breath and saying, "Ooh, we got past Georgia. Now it's Vanderbilt, it's South Carolina, and we can kind of coast till we get to to Tennessee, which is a top 10 team as well." And I think that that's what separates Nick Saban from anybody else. He never let his team take that breath. He always kept them motivated for the next challenge. Now I think with that, when you look at Vanderbilt play, they're not a bad team. Now they should not be beating Alabama. They shouldn't be. But they're not a bad team. You see some of the things that they've done in the NIL, they're pretty good. And even with South Carolina, they played Georgia tough. They should have beat LSU, to be honest. I mean, they played some teams tough. Still should not be playing with Alabama, but I think the talent level plays a part in that as well. But my brother feels like Georgia has kind of gave a cheat code to the other teams as to how to beat Alabama, and that's why they're losing. And there may be some truth to that as well. No, when it comes to okay, these are the things that you need to do. Stop Jalen Milroe from being able to roll to the outside, or take away the strong side, the side that he likes to roll to, and just bracket Ryan Williams because maybe they don't have much of anything else to go to. They don't really run the ball a lot, things of that nature. Could be the case. They may need to make some adjustments there. But I'm like, well, I think that it was just that sigh of relief that we've gotten past Georgia, because you saw how they reacted when they won that game, and how it just was like that was their Super Bowl, that they were able to beat Georgia again, who everybody considered to be the top team, whatever the case may be. And you just seen this weight lifted off them, not realizing that there's 6 other games that they got to go and play. That's what it looked like to me. But we'll see. We'll see how they play against Tennessee. The last 2 games they look very mediocre. We'll see what happens against Tennessee, and we'll probably be able to make a better judgment. I mean, who knows? It could be right. So you had that game. Alabama did end up winning 27-25. South Carolina did recover an onside kick with less than a minute to go. They just couldn't get anything going. I think they got sacked, and no time just eventually just ran out. They had a last second Hail Mary that they threw up, and I think it ended up getting intercepted, and that's what won that game for Alabama. Some of the other games that were interesting last week as I go through here, I don't see anything that was worth talking about. I mean, we got Penn State USC. That was a pretty decent game. You know what? I know one. Texas Oklahoma. That is normally a huge game. Red River rivalry. We know that from when they were back over in the Big 12 or whatever they used to call that conference over there. It was always a big game. Wasn't their first SEC matchup. Texas just beat the brakes off of them. Wasn't even worth watching. I didn't even recognize it until I just looked at it just now. I was like, that's right. No, Texas did play Oklahoma, so was not even a game. And just to make a correction, that game for the Ohio State Oregon was 31-32. As I look at that, so those are the things that were going on in college football. I try not to talk about the Colorado team a lot. Not that I don't want to. I just don't think that they're very good. But they actually had a really good game against Kansas State that they ended up losing as well. I was kind of surprised that they lost that game. I'll be honest with you, because they had opportunity to win, and normally Shedeur Sanders, no, I think Travis Hunter went out of that game. Normally they're able to put those last second drives together and win that game. But they did end up losing 31-28. But Colorado's a lot better than I thought they would be. They're sitting at like 4-2. I think they have somebody coming up next week. I don't know exactly who it is, but I do think that it was a winnable game. That's probably why I don't know who it is, because it's a winnable game. So Colorado could be 5-2 though mid-season. So now who knows? I mean, I think they will be in a bowl game, and I think that's great for Dion. It's going to be interesting to see what Dion does next year with Travis and Shedeur leaving. Is he going to stay there, or is he going to move on? No, don't know. That's gonna be some talking points. I don't talk about the Colorado program a lot, but that's one that I probably will add in and talk a little bit about and see when we kind of have an idea as to what's going to happen there. So that's college football. Next week we have some really good games. You got the Alabama Tennessee game, which is going to be I think a really good game. We'll see what's going to happen there. We have Texas and Georgia. That's going to be a good game as well. I think Georgia will prevail in that game. I mean, I'm sorry. I think Texas will win that game because I do think Texas is the best team in the SEC. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. It is college football, so you just never know. So we'll see. So can't wait for that. Michigan will be off a bye. They're going up against Illinois. I'm nervous about that. Illinois is a 501 team. Last time we played them, they played us pretty tough. That was the Blake Corum getting hurt game right before the Ohio State game. And I think J.J. McCarthy had to lead us down on the last second drive. And we won it with Jake Moody, actually, I think, kicking a field goal to win that game. So um, we'll see what happens in that game. No, but I'm a little nervous about it. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little nervous about it. So we'll see. All right. So that was college. Let's go ahead and let's talk about our NFL games. And of course, the prime time matchup was the Cowboys and the Lions. And ooh, that wasn't good. Dallas is in trouble. And when I say Dallas in trouble, I mean they're not very good. Um, Dallas got manhandled. They got destroyed. They got embarrassed in that game against Detroit. And this game reminded me of Remember the Titans. And if you've ever seen the movie Remember the Titans, there's a particular scene where they're in the playoffs and the refs are kind of doing some shady stuff. They're calling penalties when they shouldn't call them, just that, whatever. So Yotes, no, who is no the coach, no Bill Will Patton that plays no Bill Yotes, Denzel's defensive coordinator, in the movie. He kind of calls the referees over because he knows them personally and he kind of sees what's going on. And he's like, hey, no, you're gonna call this game right, you're gonna be fair, or I'll go to the papers, and he kind of threatens them, and they're like, fine, we'll call it fair. So then he goes over to Denzel, who is the head coach, and he says, run it up, Herman. Leave no doubt. No, that's what he tells him. Run it up. Run that score up. And boy, 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 somebody must have gave that word to Dan Campbell, because that's exactly what he did. He ran that score up, and before you knew it, it was a 47-9 game. And yeah, they just dominate them on every level. Dallas couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. They couldn't run. They couldn't pass. I mean, there was a point in time where Detroit was doing hook and ladders with their offensive linemen to get them touchdowns. And ain't nobody want to fight about that. I heard somebody say, I think it was Money Jones that was saying this team has no more fight because ain't nobody fight. Cause I think at that time the score was like 30-6 or something like that. And they doing hook and ladders with their linemen. It's crazy. No, but that game wasn't close. I think that Mike McCarthy will end up losing his job for this, even though I don't feel like it's all Mike McCarthy's fault. Now, I don't feel like Mike McCarthy is a playoff coach. I feel like he's a great regular season coach. We saw that in Green Bay where they would win games, and then in the playoffs, you need to come up with a game plan that works, whatever the case may be. Um, those adjustments never get made, which is why I think they only ended up winning that one Super Bowl when Aaron Rodgers just had to go stupid and just turn into a superhero, which is why I've always had a thing for Aaron Rodgers. But other than that, Mike McCarthy has always been who he was. And I think that he's still that guy. And I think that when it's all said and done, Jerry Jones will have to move on from him and get someone else in there. Don't know who. It will probably be another coach that he can kind of control and tell what to do, things of that nature. But I think this will be the last year for Mike McCarthy. Now, the interesting thing is Dak Prescott and some of the other contracts that they have on there, because Dak just signed. And of course, Dak, as the quarterback of the Cowboys, is going to get the blame for a lot of this. But I don't think the Cowboys really do Dak any favors because they make him be the savior, and I don't think he's a savior type quarterback. And it's kind of like they're saying, well, we don't get you any running backs. We got you one receiver. The offensive line is not great either, but we still expect you to be able to carry us. And I don't think that's who Dak is. I think Dak showed who he was and what he can do when he had the pieces surrounding him. If you all remember when he came into the league, no, I think it was a 34th round draft pick. Tony Romo ends up getting hurt. And on that team, you had DeMarco Murray, you had Dez Bryant, you had probably the best offensive line in the NFL. I mean, you had a defense that was really good. That's when you really saw how good Dak was. I mean, he was so good that they never even put Tony Romo back in. Tony Romo actually ended up just retiring and going up to the booth where he is now. No, and somehow, some way, we got the notion, or they got the notion, that now he's a savior quarterback and he can carry a team. When I don't think he can, and I don't think he ever could. I think he's a good statistical quarterback. He's going to put up yards and touchdowns and things like that. But if you're asking him to be the offense, I don't think he can do that, especially if you don't have a defense that can keep you in the game anyway, because we saw them get destroyed, or we've seen them get destroyed by a few teams this year. Saints destroyed them. The Ravens, well, were destroying them, and then the Ravens did what the Ravens do. You know, we're going to talk about them in a second as well, and they let them come back. You know, Detroit, I mean, it has not been fun for the Cowboys this year. So, um, and now they got Micah Parsons contracts coming up. Of course, they signed Trayvon Diggs. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that team, and will they start to trade pieces off and tear it down, build it again. Maybe they try to bring a winning coach in like Bill Belichick. I don't think that would happen, because I don't know if that oil vinegar combination between him and Jerry Jones. No, I don't know if that will fly. No, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But that was that primetime matchup that everybody was kind of wanting to see, that Cowboys Lions game, and the Lions pretty good beating on them. It wasn't even close. Now, on the flip side of that, I think the Lions lost a huge piece with the Aiden Hutchinson injury. If you did not see it, Aiden Hutchinson, as he was sacking Dak Prescott, kind of got his body swung around, and his leg, the bottom piece of his leg, slammed up against someone. And these guys are moving with so much ferocity and so much speed, things like that, that when they're whipping their bodies around and it hits and it breaks, you just see it just flopping, you know. And he knew it right away. He takes his helmet off, he takes his gloves off. He just knew it right away. So speedy recovery for Aiden. Michigan guy. No, of course. I root for Aiden Hutchinson. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna say now, everyone knows that my team is the Dolphins. I am a Dolphin fan, but my NFC team, I'm saying it now. I've never really rooted for another team. I've always just rooted for another player, which was Aaron Rodgers. Um, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna say I'm a Lions fan now. I am rooting actively for the Detroit Lions to win every game unless they are playing for the Dolphins. Everybody else has two teams, so I'm rooting for the Lions, especially with my Dolphins being down the way they are. They were on a bye this week, so we'll see what happens next week and the week after that, and what Tua is gonna do. But I think the Lions lost a big part of that offense with Aiden Hutchinson going down. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because they're going to need that piece, because Aiden Hutchinson is a lot of their pass rush, if not all of it. So it's going to be interesting to see if they try to get a Hassan Reddick or a Max Crosby, who seems to be, the Raiders seem to be trading pieces off, because you had a Devontae Adams trade that just happened. With a Miles Garrett, you also had Amari Cooper get traded. So what is Cleveland going to talk about doing? Would they go try to get a Miles Garrett? What exactly is Detroit going to do to try to fill that gap and keep that production that Aiden Hutchinson was giving? So big big loss, big loss. Hate to see it. You hate to see those type of injuries. But hopefully Detroit can make some moves. I'm gonna say hopefully we can make some moves and try to fill that void with something. So You had that game. Another game that I think was big was Washington and Baltimore, and I think people were excited to see that game because they want to see Lamar, of course. No, Lamar's fascinating, and Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, of course, is probably the lead for Rookie of the Year with the way he's been playing, and people want to see how he would do against that Baltimore defense, which in the first quarter, I mean, the first three quarters is no, just you know, Baltimore. And I've said this already. First three quarters, I mean, that team is unstoppable. Fourth quarter, I don't know what happens there, but people were excited to see how Jaden Daniels would do against them, and just see if that 4-1 or 5-1 record that they had was real. Was it real or was it fraudulent? And I think Washington played a great game. They ended up losing. The Ravens did win. I think the Ravens were expected to win, but um, Jaden Daniels played good. I don't think he had any turnovers. I think he completed close to 60 to 65% of his passes. He just went up against a better team. No, and I do think that Baltimore, even though they lost to the Chiefs, is the best team in the AFC right now. I think it's Baltimore, it's Kansas City, and it's Houston. If you were to ask me who I put up there first, I would say I would put Baltimore first because of what Derrick Henry is doing and the way that defense is playing. I think Derrick Henry has really solidified the identity of Baltimore's offense. So that's how I would rank them. So great game. I'm gonna say great game, good game. I won't give it the great title or tag. Good game. I think Jaden Daniels played really good. I think he showed that he can play with the big boys, and I think Washington may be the best team in the NFC East, to be honest. Because when you look at what Philly's doing and how they're struggling, they struggled again against Cleveland, even though they did win the game. They did struggle, and no, Sirianni got into it with some of the fans, which was kind of weird. I think they're better than them. I think Washington is better than the Cowboys, obviously. I think Washington is better than the Giants, obviously. So I think that may be the best team right now in the NFC East. So they could win the division, with a rookie quarterback. We'll see. We saw RG3, kind of do something like that. We just hope that Jaden Daniels can stay healthy. That way we can really see what he grows to be. So you had that game. What else happened? You had the London game where it was Jacksonville and Chicago, and Chicago just pretty much put a good beating on Jacksonville, and we're gonna have to start talking about Jacksonville and how that team is doing right now with Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence. Um, Probably because they're in Jacksonville, they don't get the pub that other teams do get. But there's some issues in Jacksonville. Honestly speaking, Duval County got some problems. No, of course, my son is a Jacksonville fan. I'm sure he would tell you that as well. But they got some issues going on. They just signed Trevor Lawrence to the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Well, besides that, in the NFL, and it looks like they got a coach that's probably not going to last the season. So no, we'll see what happens. Chicago, like I said, put a pretty good beating on them. Caleb Williams actually looked good. Caleb Williams has looked better over the last couple of games, and Chicago is actually good. That NFC North division is actually really good with Chicago, Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit. I wouldn't be surprised if all four of them teams made the playoffs with the way that they're playing right now. Those are those teams are playing really well right now. So, um, no, not a great game in London, but a great performance by Chicago, Caleb Williams, and that team. And once again, these rookie quarterbacks, they're coming in and they're trying to make some noise and do some things. So, we'll see. No, we'll see what happens. So you had that game as well. Um, Let me see. What are some of the other games that were kind of interesting when it came to last week or this weekend, this past weekend? You had Pittsburgh beat the Raiders. The Falcons actually look pretty good. Going against Carolina, and they're around that 4-2 no phase as well. You had Tampa Bay put a 50 burger up on the Saints. I don't know what's going on with the Saints, and then the Saints have a short week because they have the Thursday night game against the Broncos. No, which would be here in the next day or so. And you had the Monday night game when you had the Jets and the Bills. Of course, this was the Jets' first game after firing Robert Saleh and making I think Todd Downing is his name, the play caller. Although no, Nathaniel Hatchett is still considered the offensive coordinator. Someone else is going to be calling the plays. And they are bringing up the defensive coordinator. I think his name is you check. I think that's his name. Let me see if I can get his name here so I can make sure I get it right. No, I don't want to disrespect that gentleman by not knowing his name. So his name is, as I scroll down here, New York Jets, New York Jets. No, here he's very well respected. So no, he's well respected, but I don't know his name. I just know it starts with a U. So, but I'll find that for you. But the Jets, they were in a close game with the Buffalo Bills. No, and once again, the Jets were not able to pull out a victory, and they had every opportunity to. And this is hard for me because everyone knows that I am a Aaron Rodgers fan. I think Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest talents to play quarterback. The reason I say that is because he, to me, was one of the few quarterbacks that did not have any weaknesses at the quarterback position. He can make every throw. He was smart, didn't turn the ball over. He did everything that you needed him to do at quarterback. Now, of course, if you want to say, well, he doesn't have a clutch gene, I don't really know how that works, especially with a guy that has a Super Bowl. I don't know, think that you crack under pressure, this time, but don't do it this time. Kind of remind me of the whole Peyton Manning thing when people say, well, Peyton's not clutch, but then he wins the Super Bowl and then he loses it. Then he goes back to not being clutch. I really just don't know how that goes. But I think Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. To me, he is Patrick Mahomes, what Patrick Mahomes aspires to be. To me, Patrick Mahomes is Aaron Rodgers 2.0. No, to be honest, that's just how I view Aaron Rodgers. With that being said, um, the last 3 or 4 games, he's had every opportunity to win those games. He's had the ball at the end where he wants them, and he just has not done it. He just has not, drove his team down the field the way that he needs to. And you saw that against the Denver Broncos when they had an opportunity to win, and there were some missed field goals that took part in that, and Aaron is not able to get them in a position to do it. And then you saw it in the Minnesota game where they had the ball at the end of the game and they're driving for the lead, and he throws the interception. And you saw it again in this game where he has the ball at the end of the game and they have an opportunity to win. He throws an interception, and I don't know if he should get all of the blame, but the game looked the same as it did when Robert Saleh was there. And it's Jeff Ulbrich. That is the head coach name for the acting head coach for the Jets. Is Jeff Ulbrich. He's the defensive coordinator, so he's well respected. So he is the one that will be taking over for the Jets. So, but to get back to it, I was having this conversation with some earlier, and I was like, "Well, no, yeah, you fire Robert Saleh, but now I don't know if Robert Saleh is the problem because No, that defense has always been pretty good, and he's kind of been in charge of the defense, and it's always been the offense that struggled. It's always been the offense where they were just a quarterback away. And to be honest, it looks like they're still just a quarterback away. No, when it comes to what they are trying to accomplish, because they just don't seem to be able to pull these games out at the end. And like I said, I don't know how much of that goes on him because you've given the keys. No, when I say him, I'm saying no to Robert Saleh because you've given the keys to Aaron Rodgers. So to fire him, to me, it's like, well, what does that do? Because no, it's not like he really affected the offense. So what are we doing here? Now they did also change the play calling, but like we say, Nathaniel Hackett is still on the staff, so I would think that he would still be involved, and it's still going to be a combination of things that he would want to do and he would want to run, and of course, Aaron, I'm sure is going to play a part of that. I'm calling Aaron like I know I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see how that happens, or what happens though from there, because now they've lost this game against Buffalo. Buffalo somehow, some way, still looks like Buffalo. No, and I think a lot of that is due to the due to that quarterback. I think that Josh Allen makes Buffalo a good team. I think if you take Josh Allen off that team, they're not very good. But with Josh Allen, no, you can be 4-2. But when you look at this game on Monday, um, Buffalo was able to move the ball against the Jets, and I was like, was that due to Robert Saleh not being there and being able to make some defensive adjustments? Because they had some guy named Ray Davis or something like that, who I never even heard of, because James Cook didn't even play. And they had this dude named Ray Davis who they could not stop. I mean, just literally could not stop, and was just driving the ball down the field whenever they want, however they want. Yes, I do know that you have to account for Josh Allen, but Josh Allen did not even have to do much because they couldn't stop Ray Davis or whoever his name was. Couldn't stop him. No, it was even to the point where no, we play fantasy football. My wife has to just defense, and that defense was so bad it caused her to lose her fantasy football game. Because she needed 3 points, they only got one, so she ended up losing by two. No, that's how bad that defense played. Um, and was it due to Robert Saleh not being there? I mean, we don't know. So what do the Jets do in return? They trade for Devontae Adams. So that is a trade that just went down. Devontae Adams is now a Jet. He is now back with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how much that is going to help them. I will be honest with you. And that does not mean Devontae Adams is not a great receiver. We know how great Devontae Adams is. No, and there's, of course, it is, you can't add Devontae Adams and not be better on offense, obviously. You can't. But for the issues that the Jets have, I don't know if Devontae Adams fixes those. No, when it comes to the play calling and them just not running the ball. I mean, I think if they even would just run the ball more, that would help the passing game. So maybe, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. You see the Jets, they're really going for it. They're doing everything that they can to try to make this work with Aaron Rodgers because they know they don't have a lot of time left, and they pretty much maximized everything around him. No, so everything is at threat level delta because it's like we have to do this now. We're 2-4. What are we gonna do? And no, Aaron Rodgers. I think it would help if they got Hassan Reddick back in there. I heard that he's changed agents and he's gonna try to work out a deal, maybe a trade, whatever the case may be. We don't know, but yeah. I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I don't know how no though how it helps bring. I don't know. I'm just yeah. I don't know how that helps the Jets by bringing in Devontae Adams. Although I think I don't know. We'll see. Let's just do that. We'll see. I know that is not good talk. Just doing a bunch of I don't knows, but we'll see. So good games coming up in the next upcoming week. The Dolphins will be back um going against the Colts. Actually, they're going to be going up against Colts. This is the last game that Tua is required to sit out, and then we will see if he will be eligible to come back in week 8. That's when he can come off the IR. I am still a little bit leery about seeing Tua back on the football field, although it seems as if this Dolphins is not effective without Tua. But I am looking at him over my fandom, and as much as I like Tua, as much as I think he is a good quarterback, as much as I feel like this offense needs him, I don't want to see him play anymore because I don't want to see him hurt. It doesn't help that you kind of see him walking around with his kids and playing with his kids and things like that, and you want him to continue to be able to do that. No, and it just feels like if he continues to play football, that's in jeopardy. Him being able to do that part and be and live that life. And he's 26. He's very young, and you just want to see him be able to enjoy his life. No, and not just be able to enjoy his family. And that's how I'm looking at it. So I don't want to see him play. It's gonna be we'll see what happens. It sounds like the Dolphins and Tua are leaning towards playing. Um, I've read some stuff that he has no lingering concussion symptoms, and if he could, he would play in this week. He has no lingering symptoms or anything like that. He's cleared concussion protocol, of course, things of that nature, and they're just holding him out, of course, because he's on IR for precautionary reasons, things of that nature. But I don't know if I want to see him play anymore. I was talking to my dad, and I said it's going to be interesting if he does play to see how other players respond or react to him playing. I mean, because we've heard, that those Buffalo players when they were playing them, and they were actively telling Tua to go down during that game. They was like, we were saying, go down, go down, go down. So players on other teams obviously understand and know the severity of no concussions, and they know Tua is very susceptible to them. No, they obviously know that. So how is that going to affect how they play against him? How is it going to affect that? No, is it going to be a situation where they have an opportunity to sack him, hit him, and they kind of nope, it's too. What's that going to be like? That's going to be really interesting to see how that goes and how that works and know what happens there. So um we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I don't think the Dolphins are going to be effective on offense without him. With that being said, it wouldn't surprise me if they lost to the Colts this weekend. I don't want that. Man, I just want them to be able to run an offense that is effective without Tua, because it's possible that Tua may not be there, in the next year or so anyway. So please, no, Coach McDaniel, let's try to make something work. Let's try to do it. Let's try to let's just try to just simplify things where it's not as difficult to move the ball and get the ball to our playmaker. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. What other games we got coming up through the week? I think Jacksonville stayed in London, and they will be paying the Patriots, which is going to be really, yeah, not a game that I would be very interested in. Let's just say it that way. I think the Detroit Minnesota game is going to be good. Detroit Minnesota, that's going to be a really good game. Um, just to see who is going to be on top of that division. Of course, Minnesota's undefeated, coming off a bye week. Of course, Aaron Jones had a they said hip, but now I'm hearing hamstring. We'll see if he plays. Detroit is going to be playing their first game, their complete game without Aiden Hutchinson. So we'll see what happens there. I think the Houston Green Bay game is going to be a very interesting game. Kansas City and the 49ers, they play. That's going to be an interesting game. I think the Eagles Giants is going to be interesting simply because of the fact if the Eagles lose that game or it doesn't go the way it needs to go, we're gonna have to watch out and see what happens to Sirianni. No, that's gonna be an interesting game. Just in Pittsburgh is gonna be an interesting game because on both sides. Because you had the trade with Devontae Adams, you're having the coaching staff changes, this, that, whatever. And I think this is a must-win game for the Jets. And then you have Pittsburgh, who is possibly making one of the most surprising moves of the season, where Russell Wilson is back. So it sounds like they're gonna sit Justin Fields, who has 10 touchdowns, one interception at the moment, and has led to a 4-2 record. And they're gonna play Russ. And I don't know what that's about. No, to be honest. I'm not questioning Tomlin. I think Tomlin is a phenomenal coach. I think he's an extremely smart individual, but not that I am an expert or anything like that. But I'm like, that don't make no sense to me. We're gonna sit Justin Fields for Russ, and we know that no, Russ can't do what Justin can do when it comes to the athleticism part. So that is going to be a very interesting game to pay attention to, that Jets Pittsburgh game. And I think it's the night game. So all eyes will be on that game. So good luck. No Steelers and what you all are doing there. We'll see how that goes. So that's what we're gonna have for our NFL season. Well, not season. I'm sorry. That's what we're gonna have for our NFL week, and we'll see as we get to the mid part of the season. Know who's on top, and know who's looking good, and yeah, no, we'll go from there. So, all right. In case here's the sports. Last thing that I want to talk about before we get out of here is of course, those of you that know me, know my family, friends, the kids are in college, things like that. I got a message from my son, the one that is at Murray State playing football. He sent me a message, just letting me know where his head is and how he's feeling, things of that nature, with college football, and how he's dealing with the circumstances and the situations of not playing and not getting on the field, things of that nature, and it's a struggle for him. Of course, for this particular son, he's never not played before, and although red shirting would be the best for him, he is struggling with the fact that he's not getting looks. He's not, no, in his opinion, he's not getting an opportunity to really showcase what he's capable of because he's not able to do it in games. Um, there's I wish I could show it to you. I'm gonna try to get another screen so I can try to do screen share things like that. But there's a picture that I love that was taking their last game of high school when it has my both of my boys, and they are laying on my shoulder because they've lost in their final game in high school. I think they were 1 or 2 games from state, and they're both leaning on my shoulder and they're crying, and a lot of that emotion is because they understand that this is going to be the last meaningful game that we play for a while. And for my Murray State son, he's like, I really don't know when I'm going to catch meaningful passes again. And I think that is what he's dealing with right now, just the unknown. No, just the unknown. I don't know what's going to happen next. So he sends me this message, and he's just talking about how frustrating and how he is weighing on him and things of that nature. There's some things that he feels like it's not fair when you talk about NIL and players coming in and getting an opportunity to play because of who they are, not pretty much of what they've done, but you go from this school up here to this school down here, so it's almost as if you automatically play. So he's dealing with a lot of that, and of course, he's reaching out to me as his father just to tell me how he's feeling and things of that nature. And of course, no, my job as a father is to encourage him, but at the same time, continue to teach him. So, um, the first thing that I wanted to bring to his attention is that I understand his frustration. No, I get it. Now, I understand that working hard and when you're putting so much into something, you want to see the results of that. I get that, you know. But I also had to let him know that it's not just football that you see that happen with. That's honestly life, believe it or not, as a young man. You know, there are going to be times where you feel like, as a man, that you should be the one in this position, or you should be the one in this job, or your work should speak for itself. And why is this person getting this opportunity and I'm not? No, doesn't just happen in football. That happens in life, believe it or not. So that's the first thing that I wanted to bring to his attention. That, hey, son, um, this pretty much is how life goes. You know, there's a lot of times where it's not about how hard you work, no, and it's not about the thing that you put out there. It's like, do we like you? It's, are you a part of the family? No. So you have to be able to understand that, number one. No, in my opinion, there have to be some understanding that this is just how things go. But here's what separates, no, you from the other individual. What do you do from there once you have that understanding? For him, this is what he chose to do. He wants to play football. That is his thing. Okay. And I was like, if this is what you want to do, if this is the decision that you've chosen, then you can't let that deter you. Okay. You have to continue to work hard and put yourself in the position to be successful when that door opens. It's not an if, it's a when, because that door will open some way or another. And when it opens, the best thing that you can do is be prepared to walk through it. Okay. And that is what I wanted to get across to him. Now, you just continue to work. You just continue to do the things that you know you need to do, because when those doors open, you want to be ready to go through them, and you want to blow those doors off the hinges and they be like, wow, why weren't we doing this before? But you got to be prepared and you got to be ready for that. And it's the same thing with life. When those doors open, you got to be ready to go through them, but you can't quit, you know. And he has no notion of quitting. No, that is not something that he said. He didn't talk about it. He just talked about the frustration, and I appreciate him just getting his feelings out there and telling me how he feels. No, as my, I appreciate that. I love that relationship that I have with all of my kids, where they're just telling me how they feel. But the one thing that I want to get across to him is that, hey, this is not just football. This is life. No, and at the same time, no, at the same time, you can't stop working. There's a reason why such a small percentage make it to that next level. It's because they get to this part and they quit. No, so you don't do that. You continue to work, and anything that you need, any support, any, no, added motivation that I can do, I will do whatever it is to make sure that you get that, you know. And I think that goes, for anybody or anything that is dealing with something, that they feel like they just keep just banging their head up against the wall, with, continue to work at it, and I promise you doors will open. Yes, I know it gets hard, no, it gets tough, no, yes, absolutely, but continue to work, because I promise you those doors will open, and when they open, the best thing that you can do is be prepared to walk through them. All right. So that would be my advice for anyone that's dealing with anything like that. Work. Just continue to work hard. Put yourself in a position to walk through those doors once they open up. All right. I'm going to continue to encourage my kids, know that they're able to just continue to work hard, and they do that. And hopefully, some things open up for them here in the future. I believe they will, because I think that their steps have been ordered, and I'm looking forward to what all of them have, in store, what God has for them in store, as they grow and they move forward. So, with that, want to encourage everyone, continue to do what they're doing. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna sign off for today. I'll talk to you guys next week. Love you all. Please comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. And like always, give me some ideas of things that I can talk about. See you all next week. Much love. Talk to you later.